Blessings. Welcome forward to Reasonings right here at the Tree of Life. I am your host, Jerome Sage Butler. I have a very mystical brethren with us traveling through the experience. Welcome, Brother Stephen.
You
Respect and honor every time.
give thanks, Jerome. You mean one.
Perfect love, brother. Reasoning with the eye, I find out a whole heap of things. And so I decided I would keep it, not just to myself, but I would share it because one of the reasons that I forward, is to try and I get like a reconnection to certain parts of the spiritual experience, but even in the connection, we find out that we're born on the same day,
Yeah.
just a year apart. And while explaining my spiritual journey to you, I saw that there was some similarities in some of the experiences, maybe just being a Sagittarian or just being a seeking soul. So this moment, I'm moved to kind of, share this experience because one of the things that we've been talking about is the ability to visualize um, your your future experiences, visualize the present experience.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, not just a sense of idealization, but how do we get from a state where we feel that things aren't functioning enough at the level that it ought to be functioning, the level that we feel satisfied by our efforts? I'm talking. How do you get from that level to a level that is actually functional, that is actually satisfying, you know, our truest desires? And one of the things that the spirit's been showing is that foresight is very important. We talk about foresight a lot, and in like the essence and the experience with True Life and
Yeah.
Sela Media. No, foresight in a lot of sense is future orientation. It's the ability to go beyond the present moment and see yourself, see the experience of others, you know, in a moment in the future,
Mm-hmm.
and be able to draw from that moment and bring to the present. So when I was reading with you and I heard you talk about like, the visions you have of the music and the vision you have of using music as a tool. And I just want you to share some of that issue of how you see yourself now moving into that vision of the future based upon what you've previously been doing as well too.
Well, again, kind of doing things in a with a consciousness base.
Mm-hmm.
We unfortunately have to rely on I guess the timing. Time is very important, and what we feel that might be the right timing is not necessarily what the right time is going to be. So when it comes to creativity, any art, music, when we put it out there, it's really going to be how the people respond to it at that given time,
Mm-hmm. I can
right?
agree with that.
So hopefully people will gravitate to it, and people are at that in that headspace to be able to identify with it, to be able to relate to it, and it's something that can resonate with them then.
Blessings, blessings. I know you're Jamaican, but you have branched wings further outside of Jamaica. But how do you bring that essence of exactly what you want in the musical creativity?
Mm-hmm.
Creativity. Do you stick along the cultural lines? Do you infuse other stuff? I mean, how do you bring that from out of the inner to where people can experience it?
Yeah, well, I mean, being of from a Jamaican background, patois is my dial.
Yes.
So no matter what the delivery is going to be, whether it's a sing J, whether it's a DJ, whether it's singing, it's still going to be in the native patois tongue for me, right? Now, as far as the music itself,
Mm-hmm.
if there's anything I've learned
Mm-hmm.
through the experience of creating music, and I think it applies to a lot of different things that you create,
Mm-hmm.
Jerome, but the creation almost has to happen on its own organically. You know what
Ah,
I mean?
yes, yes,
Like, yes, we all have inputs, but me and you come together, for example, to collaborate to create something.
yes.
It takes on a life form of its own, and
I can agree with that.
yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
creation will kind of create itself. So sometimes it's about letting go of control, or what we think is control, and letting things just manifest what they're supposed to manifest naturally.
Oh, wonderfully. So just a natural flow, the natural progression, especially as as creative beings. One of the major statements I hear a lot is that a lot of creative people do
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily know how to benefit from their own creativity. And one of the things I would say to that is that I think it's being both the creator and the audience of your music. So if you can have that ear to be amongst the audience, to kind of feel and see what the people are in need of,
Yeah.
and be able to fit that in terms of not just your talent, but a marketability of that talent. And so I always say that there's always a market for Jamaican music,
Absolutely.
but it's just how you uniquely bring that experience that you're trying to transmute to people across.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I like the way in which listening to your music, how you have approached it, yes, with your patois base, but with themes maybe not necessarily spoken of in a similar way we do it culturally, looking at ideas just more than the cultural way we look at these ideas, which I like, you know, which are universal themes of love, of harmony, of overcoming suffering, and, you know, basically going to a state where one is more in sync, you
Mm-hmm.
know, with a
Mm-hmm.
better experience. You know, so I'm happy to see how you're doing that. So now my issue is, how do you bring the product now of the music to the people?
Well, that is the $1 million question. There are so many talented individuals out there that are far better artists, far better singers, far better songwriters, and really what it comes down to is having the business mind. There is a business component
Mm,
to the arts, right? The key is, if it's something that we can manage to do, absolutely we take it on and we do it. However, if it's something that we can't, you find somebody who can do that.
mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's about kind of networking, making the right connections. At the end of the day, still somebody that is going to represent you and your brand and what it is and your pretty much what your message is. They have to represent you as well, right?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So
And you find that you have that, or you are working with people who could fulfill these roles?
well, like I said, just like creating music and
Mm-hmm.
collaborating that way, that's something that's organic to me as well. So
Okay.
when you kind of come across people who you and them connect, the synergy is great. Um, you know, you never close the door. You
Uh,
never close the door.
I love,
Everything is yeah.
I love the way you said that you never close that door.
Yeah.
I mean, who are some of the people now that you could say that, you know, you really basically rate working with, or would like to work with them, let's say in the future context?
In the future context, there's so many great artists that are coming up. The young up and comers that are, far surpass me even in terms of their success in their career.
Mm-hmm.
But just really artists that are humble. I like humble artists that me and them can exchange, me and them can learn something from one another. You know
Okay.
what I mean? So it's not necessarily about
The
just the
greatness.
music,
Oh, not just the music.
not just the music, because again, there's a definitely a spiritual component to creating music.
Absolutely. I see that, you know, in terms of, with even with this generation as well, too, when this generation, you know, really begin to put their musical minds together,
Hmm.
I see some things more time when I say, weird, it's more than just chords and keys being expressed. It's philosophies, it's ways of thinking.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's like a person was thinking this way, and it's like you encounter artists who's thinking maybe the opposite way of how you're thinking. And in that interaction, you
Hmm.
get to understand a little bit more yourself, a little bit more the artist, a little bit more of life itself.
Right.
And so collaboration, sometimes to me, I find out that it's really a meeting of the soul.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
because I think there's a statement in Christendom that says, where two or three are gathered in my name, there shall be also. So it
Hmm.
seems to me that when musicians gather, right, there's a vibration that increases, with each person being allowed to express fairly
Hmm.
and freely who they are, how they are. I think then the environment then supports a more, you know, unified, divine expression. For generations, artists have been not just the people who makes us feel good, like being entertained, but have been the purveyors of the philosophies of life and what's been
Hmm.
beneficial. I mean, when we were reasoning earlier, and you know, we were talking about how it is you see the cosmic reality,
Yeah.
and so then now you were saying something to me about how it is that sometimes you have to be like dual and be doing music that probably is a little less as deep then to reach, let's just say, a market that might want to marginalize intensity
Right.
or depth. How do you deal with that struggle of basically watering
Well,
down to some degree what is
you
there?
know what? Ultimately, is this. We also have to look at ourselves as individuals. We are not. We are multidimensional beings.
Hmm.
So you know what? Today we're in a headspace where we're very connected. We're spiritual. Tomorrow we might be in a different headspace where we want to lighten the load. We want to party a little bit,
Oh,
and.
hmm,
So I think
I
that
see
is
that.
that is art reflecting life,
Hmm.
right?
And
Where
vice versa too.
absolutely, absolutely, So today, tomorrow, might be two different days completely. and that's, the music is going to reflect that. But at the end of the day, in terms of what you're saying for the message, I always still try to instill some form of message
Mhm.
or some form of consciousness
Mhm.
within what I write.
Understand there's still a strong, ethical and moral grounding based
Yeah,
upon the experience that you've had um, through Jamaican culture and Canada and the Canadian experience as well.
right.
So, I mean, over the years doing poetry, I always had like the idea that, well, I try to make it marketable.
Hmm.
But what is true and original about creativity is that no matter how much you try to make it marketable, there's still a limitation in that you are the one who's creating the work, and to some degree, you're the one who's trying to do the demographic to kind of fit that work into the marketplace.
Right.
And it's like sometimes um, a give and take,
Hmm.
or a win and lose, because sometimes you do gamble well on a particular poem
Right.
or a song that it came from the experience around you,
Yeah.
but it just for a short time it captured the imagination of the listening audience, but it doesn't have the continuity.
Right.
So I've gone through that several times where I've captured their attention, but I've not kept it because even though I had the demographic rights and I felt the energy of what they wanted to hear, several times I did that.
Hmm.
But then to have the support system now in terms of the economics, the corporate
Right.
portion was I think what kind of failed me there. But I tried my best, to
Hmm.
try to write in a manner that fit the lingua of what was popular or what was palatable. Even though my philosophy was far beyond what was being placed on the record in the average sense,
Right. Right.
but I still tried to make the sound as palatable as I could.
Hmm.
And I think eventually I moved away from the poetry into more music. Not because I didn't think poetry had it, but I felt that all of that embellishment, all of that attachment of these little creative devices were making me more music.
Hmm.
Sorry. Because that was making me more music, it was like a natural progression,
Right.
you know? So how many years have you been doing music and
Oh
been in this
God.
part of creativity?
You know what? I mean, in terms of the music, I mean, we all know as any musician would, it's in you from you're very very young, and then once you start to nurture it. But I've been doing music for since I was about 18 years old. You know, on a semi-professional level,
Oh, nice.
and it's kind of elevated since then. So it's gone from performing to singing covers, being in a band, to writing, producing, recording my own material and releasing that commercially.
Wow.
You
So,
know,
what's the name? Sorry, what's the name you go by?
the
Um,
stage name is Golden Child.
Golden Child.
Yeah, that's Goldenchyld. So child with a Y.
And we can find definitely your music on all of the social
Yeah, man.
platforms.
Just Google Golden Child, goldenchild.com. All the social platforms, Apple, Spotify, it's all there. You know.
My thought next would be people, I guess, still going back a little to our previous point,
Mhm.
think music just in terms of entertainment.
Right.
So, because I know that you are a conscious personality and the experience, though having its balance, is primarily meant towards conscious individuals,
Hmm.
how do you explain to people that maybe listen to music that the process of music is one of the highest process of mastery to get to the point of having a desire to sing it and going up on the stage and singing it and having people being able to respond? How do you explain to them that's not some mere chance? It's real hard work.
um, Absolutely, that is hard work. I mean, a lot of people see they see the glitz and the glamour. They
Hmm.
see an artist go on stage. They see the crowd respond greatly. What they're not seeing is the shows that artist has gone on and has gotten zero response from anybody in the crowd.
Hmm.
Has gone out and sang to two people, but still give that same energy
Hmm.
and put that forth.
Hmm.
So people don't necessarily see the story leading up to the success,
Hmm.
but they see the success. But I mean, you and me both know, it's the road to that success is definitely not easy.
It's a long one.
Yeah.
How was sleepless nights, and
Yeah.
I know people say it and they didn't think it's, and then some then think it's a cliche. But what I know about it is that when we say sleepless nights, we're not talking cliche. We're saying
Mm.
several sleepless nights because waiting for hours sometimes to perform, especially when you are the young artist, and there are already many established artists, and you are waiting for that moment, even when they put your name on the poster on the
Mhm.
flyer.
Mhm.
You still either gotta be there early or you wait until there's a break within, let's say, the transmission,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they let you in. So for a large period of the early part of this career, you find yourself being outside the studio, outside of the live events, backstage, constantly just waiting, linking up with bands, rehearsing for hours, going miles upon miles to different places, having failed attempts at making successful,
Mhm.
events and successful records and successful performances.
Then enough time people, artists, it happened to me. You show up to the show, and guess what? You're on the flyer, and nobody don't call you.
Say no call
Yeah.
it. Yeah, right.
You get left off by the show, but so you go sometimes.
The
But,
flow of it
yeah.
can be cruel.
Yeah.
And so then, as we know, going through that,
Yeah.
being patient enough,
Yeah.
being determined enough, is like an athlete who has spent maybe 15, 12 years
Mhm.
from like high school to college, pumping irons,
Yeah.
doing laps, weights, all the nutrition stuff. 12 years
Hmm.
before they run a sub 10
Absolutely.
and somebody's calling their name.
Yeah.
And if they don't run that sub 10, you see almost cruel
Mhm.
that no one calls their name, but no one calls their name.
Yeah.
You understand me? So it's the same for us in music, that the amount of effort it takes to get for that 2 second, 2 minute mention, that even when your name is on the flyer, we know that artists fight over that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because that's not a simple thing, and people might say it's trivial. It's just some people drink and smoke and act special. I know I grew up with that mentality, not me, but people saying that it's erroneous. Not to say that musicians sometimes don't slack off, and
Mhm.
people might say, why would you talk about music in a spiritual? Music is spiritual. It
Absolutely.
is wholly
Very tiny.
spiritual. Hallelujah. It's not this entertainment based reality we see they're projecting. Music is a very spiritual language of a very spiritual experience. That when you do it the way we are talking about, it takes up your whole life. It's not just about, oh, I think I got a hit. What constitutes a hit
Hmm.
is our lives.
Well, put it this way, Jerome. Somebody, a very wise man, once said that music and art, which is the same thing, are footprints of our consciousness.
I agree with that. Yeah,
Right?
I agree.
So, as creators, we really have to think about, what it is that we're putting forth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what are we leaving behind? What is our legacy? And at the end of the day, everybody has their place. Every artist, every musician has their place
Mm-hmm.
in the whole pool. We just have to define what that is for each of us.
The greater spectrum is that each note is a part of the greater composition,
Yeah.
and its instrument is a part of the instrumentation of the greater orchestra of self. And it's amazing that we have this gift, and
Mhm.
people understand that the discipline takes for us to truly survive the distractions and bring quality music.
Yeah.
Music that's coming from the soul, hallelujah. Music that speaks from Yahuwah, speaks from that place that is special above all else, and that can inspire us to change behaviors that are detrimental to behaviors that are helpful and
Mhm.
healthy. Change ways of life that are wholly destructive to constructive.
Yeah.
And so for this, I'm blessed and I'm thankful for artists like yourself, Goldenchyld, and for the others who have been coming along, who have already been here, who are already doing the work.
Yeah.
I know there's been a hijacking by black magic cults and all manner of secret organization, because music is a tool, and it's
Mm.
a tool they're using to promote their own agendas. But obviously, we're not talking about agenda-based music. We're talking about our gender-based music either. We're talking
Yeah.
about our transgender-based music either. Our transhumanist-based music either. We're talking about music that is authentic. 432
Yeah.
from that organic space, and sometimes not always sounding like the stylized stuff.
Mhm.
You know.
Mhm.
So before we go, I mean, Shira, a few lines, a verse, to the people. They don't know me already, you always hear me vibing out, so.
Yeah, man. They put me up on the spot now, Jerome. But yeah,
So I get a little time to go and catch up your bread.
again, give thanks. Again, it's goldenchyld.com, CHYLD spelled with a Y. And yeah, it's all about positive upliftment. So Jerome, give thanks. so much for having me today, and
Every
you know,
time, man.
pleasure
Every
to meet
time.
the eye and build with the eye and thing. But yeah, man, it's an uphill battle. Are you ready for the fight? 'Cause the enemy don't sleep, whether day or whether night, and I say yes. 'Cause with Jaja by my side, I fear no one. 'Cause you are my general. Love or no? Big up.
You hear that?
Cheer
Judge
alive.
our by
Yeah,
our
man.
side, we are the general. So we give thanks to the golden child. Respect and honor, blessings. Just keep liking, subscribing, sharing. Because we done already said that this year is gonna be a year of a lot of creativity, musical expression, musical vibration, as we visualize our futures coming into fruition. It's not just about the now, it's about the always.
Yeah.
That means that your past had something to do with the person that you are and the
Mhm.
person that we ultimately becoming. So we just want to give thanks that we are on this journey together. Love, light, blessings. Until next time. You know what I mean?
Peace.
Every time.